Today on Self Discovery, we have Mr. Robert Black. He has been on the show before talking about natural action water and high quality water. And today I have you on, and I'm so excited to have you on to talk about infopathy and programming water. So thank you so much for being here, Mr. Black.
It's my pleasure, Jaclyn. I mean, it's just, water is so essential for basically everything. And the adage that I like to use all the time is that structured water makes everything else better. Mm-hmm. And, when we think of water, people don't really understand that not all water is the same. And this is, again, what's exciting about what natural action technologies will do with how they are able to structure water. And again, the difference with them is we're mimicking what Mother Nature does. And so the more you can have yourself in balance with really how we ourselves were actually developed, because we are from Mother Earth, through the grace of the Lord and everything, with what he's blessed us with. So the more you can be in balance with that, mm-hmm. the better you're going to feel.
Yeah. So for the listeners, I highly recommend listening to part 1 of this podcast series on water, if you haven't already. But essentially, Natural Action is a company that sells what could be called filters or tumblers that take water, ideally purified water or reverse osmosis water, not just tap water, and they tumble it in a way that mimics Mother Nature, so that when water enters our body that way, it allows our cells to be hydrated faster and allows our body to come back into homeostasis a lot faster. Am I missing anything there? Or do you feel like that's pretty accurate?
You're spot on, because again, everything about what Natural Action does is bringing us back into the same magnetic coherence frequency that our cells in our body are designed to operate on. And water is so essential for that, as long as the water is in the right proportion. And this is where a lot of people don't realize, just because you're drinking water doesn't mean your body can really use it.
No, and some water can be really toxic to us. And if we think about, especially for those of us that live in a city, you and I both are in the Phoenix area. If we think about how water is transported to our houses, it's in all of these pipes that who knows how sanitary they are, and they're straight and they're built in all of these lines. And that is the farthest thing from nature that we could possibly have. Water in nature tumbles over rocks. It goes down waterfalls. It goes through streams and rivers and oceans and all of the things. And so it's picking up minerals. It's picking up nutrients. It's picking up oxygen. And Natural Action restores a lot of those elements back into the water. And so we can hydrate ourselves properly. I am somebody, I'm pregnant, so obviously I need to hydrate anyway, but I'm somebody who has been very focused on hydration for a large majority of my life. And I feel like since using the Natural Action filter, I've had it for probably 4 or 5 months now, I've definitely noticed a difference in the way I'm hydrated and in my skin, but it also tastes so much better. I'm so surprised by that. In addition, I give it to my animals. I put it in their food because they have dehydrated food that I rehydrate with hot water. And then I have it in their water bowl, and I've noticed they're drinking more water.
Sure. Yeah.
And I find that to be so amazing. I feel like Mother Nature always knows, and dogs are so in tune with Mother Nature. And so even they are drinking more water.
Yeah. In fact, one of the fun things I do when I go to see clients that have pets is, as we start to talk about what Natural Action is going to be able to provide for them, I said, let's see what your animals think. And so we'll take 2 bowls of water, and we'll take whatever water they've been given their animals, and then we'll run it through our portable unit a couple times, and then put that water in the other bowl. They always go to the structured water. They don't even, it's not like they go and check theirs out and go back and forth. The animals are able to recognize immediately the magnetic field, the frequency that's coming from the water, and they know it's better for them.
It's so amazing how intelligent our physical bodies are. Dogs, of course, but I feel like humans as well.
Sure.
And I'm excited to have you back on the show today, because in the last episode, you left us on a bit of a cliffhanger. in that you're talking about the ability to program water. So step one is getting a natural action portable filter so that you can tumble the water properly. And then step two now is programming the water. And from my research, I just want to set this up for the listeners. INFOPATHY has these devices that put out ICs that are essentially electromagnetic currents that program and tune the water to a specific frequency that then when it enters our bodies is able to heal whatever ailment it is that that frequency is tuned to. Is that right?
Well, we don't really make any medical claims,
Sure. Of course not.
But one of the things I like to tell people about what's unique about what INFOPATHY does. And see, here's what people have to understand. For you to be able to program water, the water has to have a clear memory. All right. And so like, as you were talking about what happens to water when it goes through the municipality and it gets brought to your homes and people, even bottled water, is you actually have a water now that has unfortunately become almost really dysfunctional because it has been taken away from its natural flow energy form. So you literally have a dead water that does not have the proper electrical charge, that now is not really a living beneficial water. So when the water is being able to be restructured, what is exciting about that process is we now are restoring the water back to its natural pure form, where it now has a clear memory. You no longer have the impact of the influences of what was previously destroying that water from being a living water that is beneficial. So with the water now being able to be programmed, just like with music, when someone sits down and they write a song, they have to put the right notes together and everything for there to be the proper frequency for it to sound properly. Because we know if all of a sudden, if you are like, if you're on the piano and if all of a sudden you change some notes on what was previously written, all of a sudden what might have sounded really smooth and fluid and just phenomenal could now all of a sudden have like a to it.
Terrible.
And that's because the notes wrong, which again would be the frequency. And think of that as like our body, because our body is a mass of energy. And our body does rely on us being in a proper frequency for us to resonate and be at our best health and best performance. So if all of a sudden we get out of whack, we're going to have a problem because we're out of frequency. So that's what's exciting about what this company called INFOPATHY and everything has done, is they've now given us healing modalities that now could be programmed to go into the water to make it much simpler for us to bring ourselves back into balance and to have the body be able to function more in harmony, just like with a great sound, a great song. We all know what it's like. Isn't it interesting on how when you walk into a room that just because there's a certain vibration that you're getting from that music, how the body just resonates from it?
Oh, totally. It's palpable. And I think of, for people who are listeners who are not familiar with what we mean by frequency and energy and how the body is just frequency. I mean, every single cell is vibrating. And so it's vibrating at a frequency.
Billions of cells in that body. Exactly.
Yes. And I believe, truly, I believe that frequency healing is the healing of the future versus traditional medicines. But beyond that, even if you don't buy in yet to the body being frequency, I think of walking into a crowded room. Let's say you're going into a mixer. There are people that you are naturally drawn to and people that you are naturally, as rude as this sounds, kind of repelled by. And it's all frequency, like attracts like. And if you are coming in a depressed, sad state, you're probably going to gravitate toward people who are in a depressed, sad state. If you are walking in a high vibrational, high frequency state, you are going to attract like. So more high vibrational frequency people. And the same is in life. I think about when people talk about social media or their friendships or their relationships with their family. Sometimes things are beyond our control. However, so much of what we experience in life is just being reflected back to us due to however we're showing up in the world. So if we want better, if we want higher vibrational frequency, if we show up that way, then we will attract more of that.
You're 100% spot on. You know, think about the athletes and the professional teams that you watch. Okay. Mm-hmm. And isn't it interesting how there's always those certain athletes and those certain teams that always just seem to be good all the time?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because of the frequency of the belief that they have in themselves to perform. And I mean, how many times when we think back to the Olympics, and I always think about when, I forget what her name was, but she had the busted up ankle.
Yes.
And she was still able to perform at another level and land spot on and, you know, helped the U.S. team win the Olympic title because, again, the frequency that she was generating for herself was reflected in her performance. And again, think about Michael Jordan, where there were those 2 games that I can recall where he had the flu and everybody's saying like, you know, how's he going to make it through the game? And they were some of the best games he ever played.
Yeah. It's so much about how we show up spiritually and mentally. And I believe our body follows suit. I think our body takes the lead from the thoughts that we feed it. Now, in relation, well, actually, I'll tell a quick story. A few years ago, my husband and I were visiting some friends in Florida, and we decided to do this really fun water activity called flyboarding. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
I've done
essentially,
it.
Yeah.
I did that for a birthday, and I had so much fun. My biggest problem, they weren't giving me enough energy to get me up high enough until I pointed at them, and they got up.
It's so much fun, but essentially you're behind this jet ski and you're in like a snowboard kind of contraption and they pump up a bunch of water underneath you. So you're literally hovering above the water and you can do tricks. And I remember a few of our friends went and they were having a lot of trouble just staying on the board without flopping right into the water. And I went out there and I said to myself, I remember this distinctly. I was like, trust your body. Your body knows what to do.
Right.
And as soon as I did that and I turned off on over analyzing, like, I need to adjust my weight here and I need to do this and I need to do this. And how do I look? Do I look like a fool? And I just trusted my body and allowed my body to do it. I got up immediately.
Yeah.
Again, it's so much about training our thoughts and allowing our body to follow suit. So when it comes to infopathy, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, it is.
When it comes to infopathy, can you give us a little rundown of how to use these devices and maybe an example of somebody you've worked with that has seen some of these results? Because I'm thinking about our listeners who are like, how does this work? Is it real, etc.?
Well, I'll use my mom as a perfect example. Okay. She has an autoimmune disease and has to have fusions because of that. And by getting her on the structured water, you know, we were able to get phenomenal results. In fact, the quality of her blood, you know, just went to another level, which was phenomenal. Her doctor was blown away because when she went in 6 months after she had her pacemaker put in, and she's 85 now, the doctor, when he did her first blood test, was like, well, this can't be right. So he did it a second time. And then he finally did it a third time. And then he just came back to my mom because she's getting concerned. He says, your blood is too good. For someone your age, this is the blood that I see at people that are 35 years old, 40 years old, not someone who's 85, you know. And so they actually took her off of a bunch of the meds that they had her taking. So that was a neat thing. Now, as I became more aware of the benefits of the infopathy and everything, I was telling my mother, I said, Mom, I said, this is something that I think could really assist you, you know, not only with at the age that you're, but also I think with your autoimmune situation. One of the problems with her autoimmune system disease that she has is it attacks the nerve, what do you want to call it? The nerve endings in her muscles. So she could never get a full night's sleep because she still would get those heart shooting pains at different times. So as we are putting together what is called a complex where you can use multiple ICs, okay, we found one of the ICs that said nerve repair. And we thought, okay, let's give this a shot. So we took that IC and made it part of her complex. And her complex has got, I think, 12 different ICs in it. Okay. And she only drank 2 glasses of water that day, you know, that she put on her, what is called the IC glowing pad, and put the, you know, the transformation of the information, the frequencies into the water. When she went to bed that night, she slept 8 hours pain-free. And she has had that ongoing.
With 2 glasses.
2 glasses of water.
On her first dose.
First day. Her first day.
Wow. That is amazing.
Well, think about it though. Okay. So there definitely was a frequency relative to her having that nerve pain to be created and to be consistent on occurring. So now if all of a sudden we brought in a frequency that now is stabilizing where she had that out of frequency balance that, you know, was causing those nerves to do that. And all of a sudden now you've made a correction in that neurotransmitter transmission to where now instead of it shooting a signal out to you saying, you know, you're still not functioning properly here, so we have to let your body know. Now all of a sudden the frequencies come in and it has balanced itself.
Mm-hmm. I think what I find so beautiful too is the intelligence of our bodies and how badly they want to be in homeostasis and
Right.
how badly they want to be healthy. But we live in a world and in a culture in the West that is like, if you have an ailment, take a pill. You
Right.
don't need to change your diet. You don't need to exercise more. You don't need to worry about the quality of the water that you're putting in your body. And it, to me, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
If we are experiencing any kind of ailment, I feel like that is our body's beautiful way of saying to us, hey, we're out of homeostasis and we need you to pay attention. It doesn't mean you don't need to go to the doctor or you need to ignore the doctor's advice. But I know for me, when I have taken a holistic approach or a more natural, non-shocking your body back into, or trying to shock your body back into balance, I have seen results so fast and felt differently so quickly that I am hesitant to trust the Western way of approaching health because I've experienced such amazing results on the opposite end of the spectrum, or at least combining the two.
Sure. I can't remember the exact Chinese herbalist doctor's name, but there was a Chinese herbalist, and you can find him on Google or on DuckDuckGo, depending on which search engine you want to use. I prefer DuckDuckGo myself. But he lived 200, and it's either 232 years or 252 years. And it's documented.
Yeah.
You can find it. And he died in 1932, if I remember correctly. And if I remember on reading, he was the herbalist that introduced the herbs from China to Marco Polo.
Wow.
Okay. But again, the reason why I'm bringing that up is here's somebody who became so in balance with what Mother Nature has to give us, that he was able to prolong his life over that period of time. Okay. And all that occurs because, see, we age due to there being cellular damage. All right. So if we have a way of being able to help reverse that cellular damage, and we can have our cells firing with the least amount of energy and stress being put on the body through the simplicity of just drinking water, right? That is now hydrating, that is giving the nutrients, that is removing the toxins and the waste, and now has the frequencies to help keep the body in balance. It only makes sense that your functionality is going to become much simpler.
And in harmony.
Right. And using myself as an example, I used to take a lot of supplementation. I used to spend close to probably about anywhere between $350 to $400 a month on supplementation. Because, I knew that the foods that we get now, the soil's been depleted. I mean, we could go on and on,
it's not the same. Yeah.
Right. So what I found for myself is I pretty much eliminated close to 90% of what I was buying supplementation, because I'm now able to do the same thing through the programming in my water.
Oh, and it's probably so much easier for your body to process everything too.
Well, think of it this way too. When we're dealing with frequencies, you can have no adverse reaction from frequencies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, which is so cool. And which is what gets me so excited about the future. I mean, I know we know a little bit about it now, but there's a company that's releasing a frequency bed next year.
Sure.
I already pre-ordered it because I'm like, this is how we are going to heal.
Yeah, energy healing is the future. You know, there's no doubt about it. We are going to, I think, here in a very short period of time, become aware of patents that have been purposely suppressed because of the healing benefits that they provide. Yeah. And for the medical field as we know it now, it's going to be completely turned upside down.
Well, the thing about frequency is it's cheap. Like once you buy it, like the device that I have from INFOPATHY was $65. I think the one that you have is less than $200.
Yeah, $192.50. Correct.
$192. And then you subscribe to the app, which is like $8 a month. And then you have all of these, like, aren't there hundreds of healing frequencies available to you? Thousands of healing frequencies available to you for less than $300. Right. I mean, from what I understand, that is a drop in the bucket compared to what medicine costs now.
You know, what would you say if all of a sudden you could start your own self-healing modalities?
I mean, I believe it so wholeheartedly because I've seen my body change when I give it what it needs.
Right.
But for people who may be skeptics, if you think about $200 or $65 for the base model, and I am not an affiliate for this company, so I have no benefit in saying this. I'm just saying this because I think it's an interesting concept to marinate on. We could waste $65 on anything, but even if you're a skeptic with something like this, try it. Try it for 7 days and see what happens. And if you experience improvement, isn't that worth, you know, taking that $65 and putting it toward that versus, I mean, going to the doctor now and even with insurance, it is wildly expensive. I can't tell you how many times just for not like normal yearly checkups, 3 or 4 months later, I'll get a bill for several $100s that is so unclear why I'm being charged that money. It's like IRS taxes. They tax you 10 years after you pay your taxes. And they're like, you didn't pay this, but you know you did. But the state of California is like, we're broke, so we're going to tax you anyway.
Well, you know, and this again gets back to why the quality of water that you put into your body is so important, because if you are allowing your body to open up its pathways, and that's what I try to really keep it simple. I said, think of it this way. If we can open up the pathways to the functionality of all of the cellular operation in our body to allow it to excel and to work the way it's supposed to, you have now just simplified the ability to stay healthy. And that's exactly what structured water does, because it is actually the structured water that your cells have to have for your body to operate properly. Most people don't realize that because of the water that they're drinking, they're always in a constant state of dehydration, because the water they're drinking is not able to be completely converted into the structured water that the cells need. So your body is now dealing with inflammation, which we know is the root cause
of disease.
Exactly.
Yeah. It leads to so many things. I mean, I think about that. I got into holistic medicine, short tangent, from my dogs. And this book was talking about how over the last few decades, disease in dogs has skyrocketed. And it's because we're feeding our dogs this dry, dehydrated kibble. So they are in a constant state of dehydration. Their organs are under functioning because they're not getting enough water. And we're the same way. we're in a constant state of dehydration. Our bodies are struggling to function properly, eliminate toxins. And also when we're dehydrated, our brain suffers. So we have brain fog. We aren't able to think properly. I mean, hydration is such a key component to health, to energy, to vibrance. Exactly. If you would, can you walk us through start to finish how you program your water so that our listeners, if they want to buy one of these, they'll have a little insider like scoop on how to use it? I mean, step one to me, and these are two separate companies. So Natural Action Technology is a separate company. That's where we get the water tumbler and create the structured water, which is this high quality, high frequency water. And then INFOPATHY is where you take the ICs or the electromagnetic currents and program the water to whatever frequency you want. So let's assume people have the Natural Action Tumbler. They go to infopathy.com, and then what needs to happen?
Okay. Well, when you go to, and one of the things that I do, for anybody who is interested, I would recommend for them, without hesitation, contact me, because I'll be more than happy to talk to them more, to help give them a proper explanation, because there is a little bit of a process that you have to go through to be able to set up yourself properly to use the INFOPATHY program. And that's in understanding how to build your complex, and then how to put the ICs in. And just, like for my parents, for my brother, I basically walked them through it. And once I walked them through it a couple of times, they're like, okay, I understand now what to do. So that's the first thing that I would tell anybody who is interested on this. Without hesitation, contact me. They can get me via my email, which is waterslivingforce@gmail.com.
And I'll link that in the show notes too, so people beyond a shadow of a doubt have it.
Because I've had a few friends that tried to do it on their own, and they got so confused and it wasn't working right. And, they said, Robert, we should have gone to you first. So that's really the first thing I'd recommend to anybody. But let's say, so we're getting you set up with how to basically build your own program. And what you're looking at is, what is your lifestyle right now? What are some of the aspirations you might have on wanting to see improvements? Because really, we are, I would almost say, unlimited on what we can do with this programming provided by INFOPATHY. All right. And that's what's great about it. For an athlete, there are things that you can add to accelerate your ability to perform better, recuperate better, get stronger, so on and so forth. For someone who's been struggling with certain health challenges, there's probably going to be recommendations there that we now, through the frequency, can help the body assist itself on balancing itself out. Because really, that's all we're doing is, God has blessed us with an amazing mechanism. So if we can help bring in some of the needed parts that right now are missing, we get to get everything operating again. So with the INFOPATHY, what I basically do is, I get my structured water set up, and depending on which device you get, there's 3 different devices you can get. You can do as much as 2 liters of water at the same time. Okay. So like a half gallon of water. So I take my gallon jug that I have, fill it up halfway. That water, then I put on and I use what's called the IC glowing pad, which is a round circular pad that has really unique designs to it. And then blue lights turn on when you're operating it. So,
and does it matter if it's a glass carafe or a plastic carafe?
Anything. It could be stainless steel, it can be plastic, it can be glass, because the frequencies will be able to go through whatever container is being used for the water. Okay. So you then basically are setting your complex up. Now, the complex is where you can put in multiple ICs. So, for example, I've got a total of 16 different ICs on my complex. And these are covering everything for enhancement of physical performance to mental concentration to assisting, my body for natural functionality benefits because of what's going on right now, because of COVID and everything. There's certain things in there that I have that make me, in my personal opinion, as bulletproof as you can be. I've been around people that have had the COVID and I've been able to help them and assist them by getting them better hydrated and everything like that. And to date, I've never picked anything up from anybody.
That's amazing.
Well,
that's amazing.
It makes sense. If I have a strong immune system, okay, then that means my body is going to be less subject to be affected by bacteria and viruses. And what's really neat, and this is why I like to work with people on the INFOPATHY, because once I'm talking with them, I can find out what some of their concerns are, and then we get to have fun like going to school, because I say, well, let's check this out. This is what you're concerned about. So we put it in the search bar. Information comes up, and then we read what the IC is telling us, what it's all about. And then we decide whether that's got properties that we think would be beneficial for us to use. So as I start to stack this up, it's sort of like Legos. So then we finally start to build it up to where we put it where we think we want to be. We get everything set up there. You then have a certain title that you're putting into this complex to signify what you've developed and everything. And you've got to submit certain stages, get all that set up. Then once that's completed, you now have basically your own profile. And so now when I go to use my profile, I basically go to INFOPATHY, I hit IC complexes, I then hit imprint, and then I go down and I select one of the other boxes, and normally it's skeletal and muscular, and then I hit what looks like a little beaker that says created, because I have created a complex for myself. I click that, it brings up my profile. I then click on my profile, which now is sitting right there in front of me with the list of all my ICs. When I click on that, it then brings up the start box, where it's push the start and let it go. Now, depending on what your ICs are, there are certain time frames for each separate IC. And so you can have a time frame to have all of this done at once that could be only maybe 10 minutes or could be as much as an hour. It all depends on what the ICs are that you're putting in. Gotcha. And so that kind of becomes part of what you're selecting also, because for me, if I had to sit around and wait for an hour, I'd go nuts.
Me too. I'm not the most patient of people.
Yeah. And so what I found myself is I was looking, because there is time frames that show you what it takes for these frequencies to be downloaded into the water. When I do my 16 ICs, that all happens in just 9 minutes.
Wow. Okay, so it's fast. And then do you have to drink the water in a certain window, or is it just programmed and it's good to go all day?
It's good to go all day,
Wow.
So, and that's another thing that's great about structured water, is the structured water is not going to lose its properties unless somehow you have done something to alter it, such as put it in front of a magnetic field or put it in front of a huge electric field, okay, because that would disrupt the structuring. But like I've got 2 5-gallon jugs of water filled up right now, just in case we have a blackout sometime in the near future where we're out of power, right?
Sure.
And that structured water has been sitting there for a month, and it's still just as good as it was a month ago when I filled it up.
Yeah, and for those listeners who could maybe be skeptical about that, if you go to Natural Action, is it naturalactiontechnology.com?
Yes, Natural Action Technology.
Yes, naturalactiontechnology.com. There are studies showing under a microscope the difference between structured water and regular water. Right. And the cellular level and the way that it's shaped, it's totally different. It blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, and that's why for me, I use my domain name, waterslivingforce.com, as a reference, for people to go to Natural Action Technologies, because as I'm talking to people about water, when they hear Natural Action Technologies, there's nothing there that to them resonates with water.
Sure.
I realize that for me to have more of a domain name and that's really what structured water is. It is a living force.
Yeah.
It is literally water that is a living force. And that's why I selected that domain name, Waters.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Because when you go there, it takes you right to Natural Action Technology. And now you have access to all of this great information. And then the other thing too is that, I'm here to help people. I mean, this is why, like yourself, Jaclyn, you have a purpose with the information you share to people, and when we can help people understand, whether it's through things that we've learned or things that we've become educated on how they can improve their own health and their well-being, that is the greatest reward in the world. I mean, there's nothing I enjoy more when I get feedback from clients that I've worked with, and they're telling me now how much their water has helped them change their life.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's so cool, and I love the beauty of the simplicity of it as well.
Right. I mean,
it's not this crazy, complicated regimen. It's water and programming water.
I mean, drinking like I tell my friends, how hard is it for you to pick up a water container and drink? All right. And yet at the same time, I'm now putting some of the best healing modalities I possibly can in to the operation of my body. I mean, you cannot ask for a simpler way to stay healthy. And that's why it's almost like I like challenging myself. Like, I want to be around sick people, because I know I'm not going to get sick, and maybe I can help them, And again, I have a simple way now that we can provide information that has, and I'm not sure if you took much of the time to see the science behind everything on infopathy, but the technology and the
it's so cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's mind-blowing, and it's so exciting.
Yes,
because this is not something that's going to cost people thousands and thousands of dollars to buy in. It's not a super complicated process. No. And there are so many different healing modalities within this umbrella that people now are going to have access to.
Yeah. The way I got introduced to infopathy is when I flew out to Ohio, and I was staying with the owner of Natural Action Technology, John Butts, and we had just relocated their larger manufacturing facility, and we had a new headquarters being set up. So I came out to help get some things set up, and I saw him programming this water, and I'm watching this. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, let me tell you about this." And the minute he told me about it, I just went, "Why didn't you let me know about this before? This is amazing." And he uses his primarily for his animals.
Yeah.
He's got 3 dogs and a cat, and 2 of the dogs, have got some health challenges. And by him being able to program the structured water, he's been able to assist his dogs living a healthier and a better life.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And so, for me, this is something that I'm looking forward to being able to share more, to not only the public, but also to, the naturopath doctors out there, others, because you cannot provide a simpler way to help bring people into balance with better health, better performance, a better lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And during a pandemic, protection. Right. I think, with all of, and I've spoken on this podcast a lot about fear, because I feel like mass media and so many other entities are just pushing fear on us, fear, so that they can have some semblance of control.
Exactly.
Because we don't make good decisions when we're in a state of fear. But also, I want to let people know, obviously, I'm not a medical doctor. I can't make medical claims. But in my experience, when we treat our bodies well, we give our bodies the nutrients that it needs, high quality, high vibrational nutrients, lots of fruits and veggies.
Yep.
And we are hydrated. Our bodies are not good vessels for viruses.
No.
We are just not a good match. It's, again, going back to frequency. If we're operating at a high frequency and COVID is at this low frequency, we're not going to be a match. And so we may come into contact with COVID, but just because we come into contact with COVID does not mean we're going to contract it.
Exactly.
So again, this is just, to me, another way of increasing our insurance policy, so to speak, to protect ourselves against anything that is going to be harmful to our bodies. If we can be proactive about our health, that to me is the most important thing. And that is also what I want the wellness portion of this podcast to be about, is being proactive, not retroactive, in as much as we can help it.
Yeah. Well, and again, when we talk about frequency, this is what resonates so much because of what structured water is. The biomagnetic field that is created by the structured water, the frequency that has, is such a life-giving force. And that's why when I have fun, I'll do water parties at clients' homes sometimes. And we'll take, for example, some strawberries or apples, and we'll cut them in half. And we'll take, say it's their tap water, and we put that in a bowl, and then we use part of the slices going into the tap water. And then we see them take that same tap water, we structure it a couple times through our portable unit, and then put the other halves in the other. And then we'll let it sit there and soak in the water for about 5 or 10 minutes. Then we come back and we taste them. And you cannot believe the taste and the structure that you literally can tell has been changed in the cellular structure of those fruits or vegetables that we just ate.
That is so cool.
Frequency. It's all due to the frequency.
Yeah.
And the energy being created.
My mom is the one who introduced me to Natural Action Technologies. She has the portable unit.
Right.
And she was so pumped when she first got it. She was like, you have to taste my regular reverse osmosis water. Now taste it after it's been through the tumbler. So I did that taste test. And then she was like, now I want you to taste my white wine, and I want you to taste my red wine after it's been through the tumbler. Yeah. But she's not wrong. They go from being like, the wines in particular go from tasting acidic to being so smooth. Right. You can't deny it. It's like two totally separate drinks.
Yep. And the nice thing on the side with the wine, you won't get a wine hangover.
That's so cool. I mean, I'm pregnant right now, so I can't take advantage of that, but that's good to know for the future. So for people who are curious, how can they get a hold of you, and where can they find more information if they want to go online for both natural action and infopathy?
Sure. The best way is for them to reach out, on my website, waterslivingforce.com. Okay. And that will take them to Natural Action Technology. Reach me via email, waterslivingforce@gmail.com. Now, one of the things that I've done to help people is I actually have a video that shows how I program my water through the INFOPAThy. And I point out all the different things that I've put together on the ICs. And that's really helped many of the people that, have taken the step to wanting to do that, because now they understand a little bit more on how it's going. Plus, when you actually, and you haven't been able to get yours up going yet, once you're tuned it on, you actually see on your screen the frequencies. So you're literally going to see these frequencies going and changing in their levels.
That's so cool.
You literally see what actually is going on. And, it's like, for me, it's like being a kid in a science class, because you're seeing this activity going on. You're seeing this water literally, in a way, kind of vibrate, because it all makes sense. Of, oh, wow, I can see that something is happening to this water.
It's changing.
And I'm telling you, especially myself being an athlete as I am, the difference that I saw in the gym from drinking the structured water and then programming it was just off the scale.
Oh, I cannot wait. I'm so excited to use this. So for that video, if you send me a link to that video, I'll make sure that gets in the show notes too. So if people are curious, they can have your email. I'll have your website in there, and then a link to this video.
Yeah. And remember too, we've got, for the people with Natural Action Technology product, when they go to my website, waterslivingforce.com, we've got that 10% discount.
Perfect.
We'll have available for them too, where it's Robert B in caps -10. And by using that, we can not only save them 10%, but we also are no shipping charges and no tax.
Oh, amazing. So I'll make sure that code gets in the show notes as well. And then for people who are economically conscious, if you were to get the Natural Action portable unit and what you would recommend from INFOPATHY, how much are people all in? Like, what kind of investment is that?
You're looking at, on not including the 10% discount that you'd get on the Natural Action product, that portable unit retails for $299. And then we also have the Blue Cobalt one that goes for $349. Blue Cobalt provides some additional energy benefits, with it. But, they can pick up the portable unit for $299. And then on the INFOPAThy, depending on what device you decide you want to use. And this is where a lot of times I like to talk to the customers too, because I'm able to give them a little bit better, some insight on what might be the better choice for them. So based on what I did myself, when I got my IC glowing pad, that ran me $192.50. Okay. And then I signed up for the annual membership, like you said, that when you pay for the annual membership up front,
I think it's $8 a month or something.
It's like $8.92. It comes out to like $98.
Yeah.
And you actually get a 30-day free trial on that also.
Okay. So it's 13 months.
Yeah. So
okay.
If after 30 days, you didn't feel like you benefited from it and everything, you
cancel it.
Yeah. You can.
Okay. So all in, it's around $600-ish. So that's not an insignificant amount of cash. However, when it comes to our health, I feel like that's a drop in the bucket.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Some of my clients, literally, by using our structured water program, by using the INFOPATHY, have literally already saved themselves thousands of dollars.
I believe it. I believe it.
Other, applications and everything, through meds and things of that nature. And the one thing I tell everybody about this is that, I'm not a doctor. We don't make any medical recommendations. But what has been very interesting is that people that we now have that are using our natural action technology system, they're using the ability for the INFOPATHY, when they go back, to go see their doctor, they're doing so much better that a lot of things are changing. And so they put themselves in a better, healthier environment, and their body is responding.
So cool.
So it's not uncommon for me to get calls from doctors, and they start asking me questions.
What the heck is going on with my patient?
They say, like, how can water, my mother, again, using my mother as an example, when her blood was so good, her doctor just couldn't figure this out. So when she told her doctor how I'd gotten them on this water protocol program, Dr. Young called me up, and it just was hard for him to believe that water could be this much of an influence on bringing the body back into proper health. But it's interesting because 2 books that really made me aware about how important water were written by Dr. Batmanghelidj. His first book was You're Not Thirsty, You're Sick. His second book was Medicine Kills, Water Cures. And literally, when you read through his books, here is a practicing doctor, an MD, that has thousands and thousands of patients that he's been able to document how, by using the proper water protocol and everything, he was able to address their health problems. He brought all that information to the NIH, to the MAA, to the CDC. And what did they do? They just moved that off to the shelves, just moved it away, because Big Pharma doesn't like seeing that. Big Pharma doesn't want people to know.
No, because water is inexpensive, and these treatments compared to regular medicine are totally inexpensive. So we'll link those books as well, for sure.
Yeah, those are some great references people can go to, where you can really understand. And, again, he just basically says, here's what the patients were suffering from. Another great doctor that I really enjoyed, well, there was actually 2 others. Dr. Hisataka Nojima, cancer specialist in Japan. And literally, by him using structured water with these amazing trace minerals, he calls it his super mineral water. He was able to address his cancer patients. And from what I've been told to date, he's got over 50,000 cancer patients that are cancer-free.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. It's bringing the body back into balance. And again, I've got the ebooks. I've got information that I can share, that this is information coming from doctors. This is their validation on what they've been able to do. And this is what I like to share with people, because it gets me away from them thinking I'm trying to do a sales pitch to them. I just look, this is how I learned. This is why I live my lifestyle the way I do now. And this is why I know I can give validated information from doctors that will make you more aware of how we really can enable our body to be able to really self-heal itself.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, I know we could keep going for another hour, but I want to respect your time. Mr. Robert Black, thank you so much for sharing this information with us. And I'll make sure everything's linked in the show notes so people can get a hold of you readily.
Jaclyn, thank you very much. Really, it's, God bless you and your husband and your new addition to the family as it's coming and everything. And, I just, the one thing I want to comment to you is, I'm very proud of what you're doing, because
thank you.
The time and the effort that you are putting in to be able to bring information like this to your followers, I think is important. Because it's information like this that can make a difference. And I know that you do this because you are making a difference.
Well, I care. I really genuinely care. I feel like we are all so deeply and universally connected that when one of us gets better, the ability for all of us to get better becomes available. And so to me, it's just full circle and it's doing what's right. But I appreciate so much that compliment. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.